Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss the ever-growing issue that is depression and anxiety among teens and young adults and how the two correlate with each other. I'm going to key in on the resources that not only our community, but the nation as a whole have implemented to save the young minds in which it affects. We've all either witnessed or have experienced it ourselves, the pressures of our environments to that of school or work. While these conditions may be invisible to the naked eye, they are not invisible to the person in which is affecting. I myself have both struggled with this and have known people who have, and I'm aware of many resources in my community alone, even before researching it online. I can assure you that while these disorders are not visible when you first look at something, they are there. And without the resources that I personally have seen in our community, it would not be the same community that I know, and that is young, successful adults who have seen dark days, but are helping themselves with the resources they have to be okay. And first, I would like to get into the ways adolescent depression creates a chain of events in young adults, how we can see the signs of it, and how we can prevent it, and the resources that continue that on. Next, I will touch on how the U.S. is approaching this, as well as how Bristol Community College is. According to David Ferguson and Leanne Woodward, whom co-wrote an article about a research project of more than 1,300 children from the ages of birth to 21, noted that those who experienced depression from the ages of 14 and 16 were more likely to get more psychosocial disorders from the ages of 16 to 21, such as anxiety, substance abuse, and eating disorders. These doctors also stated that there's leading evidence that shows early onset depression correlates to further adversities, such as suicidal behaviors, more depressive episodes, and how it can affect normal development and how it changes the way you think over time. According to Randy Auerbach, depression in adolescence is a serious public health concern. Recent epidemiological data showed that approximately 11% of youth will experience depression, and these episodes are associated with downstream negative consequences later in adolescence: academic difficulties, risky behavior engagement, non-suicidal self-injury, and in adulthood, lower income levels, higher divorce rates, and higher suicidality. Most notably, an alarming 75% of these adolescents will attempt to commit suicide in adulthood. I met with a current student whom would like to remain anonymous. Of course, we met socially distanced protocols, about her experience with depression and anxiety as an adolescent and how it correlated to her as a young adult. And she said that it affected her schoolwork. She didn't want to go into school, so she would start skipping class, or she didn't feel like doing homework and she would get a bad grade, as well as lashing out at family and friends and not wanting to do her best at work. Now that some of the numbers have been given to you, let's move on to our world, country, and most of all community is addressing this solemn issue. Over the past couple decades, many institutions have put several policies into place to help prevent these numbers from rising, including our very own Bristol Community College. There are several websites that are there for those who suffer from depression and other disorders, such as www.betterhelp.com, which can help you get resources for yourself, your spouse, or your children. A website that specializes in mental health disorders among young adults, known as www.nami.org, has a text messaging system in which you can speak with one of their counselors to prevent the fear of being judged, so you can speak with someone without that fear. And in the song name of the infamous rapper Logic, there is the number for suicide prevention that can also advocate for those who just need a 5-minute or 5-hour conversation to de-escalate taking a permanent solution to a temporary problem. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Here in Massachusetts, there are many resources for those suffering with mental health disorders, such as TAIA, which brings forth the necessary tools to help teens and young adults get help in their clinical and developmental needs. It helps them transition to a life that is more sustainable and positive for both them and their families. And lastly, as we all know, there's a student resource here that we should all utilize, and that is the free counseling services that we have at Bristol Community College. That ensures we maintain our mental health and stay on track to being the best we can be, as it can be hard to balance all the different aspects of life, especially while our views, education, and the world around us is changing. Okay, now that I've laid it all out there, all the resources, the numbers, and personal experiences, it's hard to see around us. The rates of depression and anxiety among young adults and teens is always a number that is fearfully being raised, especially due to the circumstances around us. A global pandemic at an all-time high, social media use at an all-time high as well, being locked in our houses. I'm afraid that the new numbers will be even more disheartening in the future. But one thing that is a light at the end of the tunnel is the kindness that we share with those who are struggling, the resources that we've gained, the knowledge that we've gained through these resources, that we can help those who are struggling.